Welcome back for part two of my kind of hot take or tier list for the Bard class. We are leaving the B's and the C's behind, and now we're going to be looking at the top tiers, A tier, and of course, the all powerful S tier class. So, without any further ado, let us go ahead and get started. All right. We are leaving the B tiers behind and are now entering into the A tiers. Remember, A tier is basically they're the best. They are the most balanced. They are the and by balanced, I don't actually mean balanced. I mean balanced as in you will find that these are just as good in combat as they are out. You can't go wrong with any of these. And that's kind of the takeaway here when it comes to A tier and S tier is that there's a very big difference I think in power level between say D to C, C to B. But once you get into A tier, these are going to be the subclasses that really you can't go wrong. This comes solely to flavor and solely to what do you want your bard to do. But all of them are decent. All right, so at A tier, very first one, and again, these aren't in any particular order, they're all A tier. We have the Bard of Whispers, right? The College of Whispers Bard. First off, at third level, right, you get Psychic Blades, which means that when you hit a creature with a weapon attack, you can expand one use of your Bardic Inspiration to deal an additional 2d6 psychic damage to that target. You can do so only once per round on your turn, and then it increases to 3d6 at 5th level, 5d6 at 10th, and 8d6 at 15th. One of the biggest jumps of scaling out of any class I think I've seen. Most of the time, it's congruent. It's 3d6, 4d6, 5d6. This is 3d6, 5d6, 8d6. So it massively increases its damage output. Now, you can look at this and go, oh, but, I can only do it once per round, once per my turns. And I have to use my Bardic Inspiration. Those are precious commodities here. You're right. But at 5th level, don't forget that bards get the ability to get all of their inspirations back at short rests, along with long rests. So in other words, unless you have a DM who really, gets stingy with his short rests, in other words, short rests are 3 hours long and they can't be interrupted at all. And which is of course code for I'm going to fucking interrupt them as much as I can, then okay, maybe you could argue that maybe, that this would not necessarily be the class that I would want in that particular campaign. I would try to avoid classes that are short rest reliant. But I have the oddest feeling most DMs are not like that, and that your DM is not like that. So the fact that at 5th level, you can, in theory, use 3d6 extra as you go forward in almost every single one of your attacks is very, very effective. And the fact that it is psychic damage, which not many monsters, enemies are going to be resistant to, means that this is going to be almost guaranteed damage, unless you maybe go up against like a hive of mind flayers or something. But we're not done yet, right? Also at 3rd level, right, you get to do some really, really awesome things. If you speak to a humanoid alone for at least 1 minute, you can attempt to seed paranoia and fear. At the end of that conversation, the target must succeed on a wisdom saving throw against your DC, or it is frightened of you or another creature of your choice. So maybe, you're trying to get them to be terrified of the barbarian of the party, help out that barbarian with their intimidation check. So you do this. The target is frightened in this way for 1 hour or until it is attacked, damaged, or if it witnesses one of its allies being attacked or damage of any kind. If the target succeeds, however, the target it does not work, but it does not know what you attempted to do. Now, this might seem like kind of a weaker ability. However, this is one of those things where it's up to the creativity of you and the DM as to how effective this could go. The fact that, this allows you to cast a version of I believe it is the fear spell for free on a short rest. Basically just, hey, on a short rest, you talk to somebody for a minute. And at the end of that minute, they have to make a saving throw. And if they fail, they are frightened of you. Now, this is a little reliant, and it's why this is one of those situations where, this ability alone, if it wasn't for the fact that this upper ability is so good, this almost knocked this class down to B tier for me just because of this ability alone. Because of the fact that it is so reliant on certain situations. And, according to my tier list, situational usually means that, you are in B tier, C tier. But the fact that it gets you something so awesome, if I was a DM and this worked, so my target failed their wisdom saving throw and they're now frightened, that I'm going to give them, advantage on intimidation checks, or just give them information, as if they were scared, and would do so. And the fact that they get it back on a short rest, again, kind of makes this character a little short rest reliant, but it's a decent ability. All right, 6th level. You gain the ability to adopt humanoid persona. When a humanoid dies within 30 feet of you, you can magically capture their shadow using their reaction and retain this shadow until you use it or until you finish a long rest. Basically, it allows you to create a very, very good disguise self. Just as an action, you encompass yourself in this person's shadow, and now you look and sound like this person. It lasts for 1 hour, or until you end it as a bonus action. When you are in this disguise self, you gain all the access to information that the humanoid would freely share with a casual acquaintance. So you don't know, like if this target had buried treasure or something. And I will admit, I'm not a big fan of leaving things up to chance. So I wish that Wizards of the Coast would maybe put like an example of like, hey, this is the kind of information that this player would know versus what they wouldn't, because just simply saying that it doesn't include secrets, okay, but what if this person is like just leaving the their underground vault, it would be on their minds, it would be like if they just put a shit ton of gold, let's say, into a hidden safe somewhere, and immediately, and then they're like, oh shit, I forgot to walk my dog today, so they turned around, walked outside, ran into the party, and were brutally killed and their shadow captured. Do you mean to tell me that information would not, knowing just where they came from, do you mean to tell me that information would still be deemed a secret? I don't know. What's really nice though, and what makes this such a fantastic ability is, one, it is a better disguise self, because I've ruled it before where, just because you cast disguise self on of something, you don't change your voice. You don't change how you talk. You don't, so if that person has some mannerisms, if that person, if who you're trying to disguise yourself as, has a particular speech pattern or something, then I've ruled it that like, hey, I know, if this person goes to talk to someone and that person knows this person well enough to know those kinds of tics, those kind of verbal communicative tics, then I'm going to have a pretty damn high DC, for them to try and deceive that person and pull off that they are pretending to be who they are not. However, the way this is all spelled out is that, you know how they talk. You are able to, just naturally communicate in such an easy way that, to be honest, I probably wouldn't even I wouldn't even allow, your base other people to insight this kind of disguise. If one of my party members played a Whispers Bard, became someone else, and then walked into, a gallery or a dinner, or a house or something, I wouldn't even give them, I wouldn't even give my enemies the chance of inciting, because of the way that this is worded. And what makes it really, really awesome is that nowhere does it say that you must act as if it is a concentration spell. So not only do you get to use this ability and get to be this other person, but now you can still cast spells while you do it. You can still cast invisibility if you need to. You can still cast charm person if you need to, while maintaining this disguise. That's what makes it so powerful. All right. Another creature that can see through the disguise by succeeding a wisdom insight check and tested by your deception check. You gain a +5 bonus to your check. So even then, like, even if, it's not, it's the fact that this even spells out that, hey, it has to be a competing check between that person's insight, which, let's be honest, most of our monsters, most of our humanoids, is probably just a D20 plus something small. probably can count on one hand, maybe a +2, +3. And the fact that, odds are, if I was playing this class, you can bet your ass that my expertise is going to be in deception. So I would have a 5 plus 6 or 8, and now I get another 5. Like, my deception check is going to be like a +16, while I'm on this thing. Like, it is such a good ability, such a cool ability. But I will say it doesn't help you in combat. But oh, look, we didn't need to. Our level 3 ability has already helped us in combat. So, I love it. I love that this is something that's, playing the part of the Whispers Bard, and it's giving us tools, things that we can use both in and out of combat. All right, at 14th level, you gain the ability to weave dark magic into your words and tap into a creature's darkest fears. If there's anything that's kind of a letdown for me, it's this one. As an action, you magically whisper a phrase that one creature within 30... Excuse me. Well, within 30 feet of you can hear. The target must make a wisdom saving throw against your spell save DC. It automatically succeeds if it doesn't share a language. It must be pollen season. It automatically succeeds if it doesn't share a language with you, or if it can't hear you. On a successful saving throw, your whisper sounds like an unintelligible mumbling and has no effect. If the target fails its saving throw, it is charmed by you for the next 8 hours, or until your allies attack or damage it. It interprets the whispers as a description of its most mortifying fears. While you gain no knowledge of this secret, of whatever it is that you're terrifying them with, the target is convinced you do know it. While charmed in this way, the creature obeys your commands for fear that you will reveal its darkest secret. It will not risk its life for you or fight for you unless it has already been inclined to do so. It grants you favors and gifts it would offer to a close friend. When the effect ends, the creature has no understanding of why it held you in such fear. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest. This is situational. And the reason why I say it's situational is because whenever it comes down to kind of vague writing, such as it won't, risk its life for you or fight for you unless it was already inclined to do so, that means that it is entirely possible that you playing this class may be in a situation where you think you've convinced this person before you use this ability to have this person fight for you. But then your DM, right, as soon as you ask them to, you use this ability, and then you try to get them to do so, and then your DM says, no, they weren't going to fight for you. They don't hold you to that high regard. Do I think that DMs are going to be dicks and do that often? No. But anytime there's gray area, anytime there's a possibility where, hey, this class ran in my campaign, would be treated differently, would be at a different power level than, say, if it was in someone else's campaign, because of the vagueness that some of this is worded, it's why it's not S tier. Now, is this still a super awesome ability? The fact that they are charmed for 8 hours, or unless they are attacked or damaged, like, absolutely. This is insane. This is an 8-hour long charm person. You don't have to main concentration on. There's they make one save and then that's it. And when it's all said and done, they don't know what happened to them. They just pawn it off as, this, like, oh, I just had a giant bout of horrible anxiety and it personified in your face. I don't know why. And then they just go about their life. It's a cool ability. It is a unique ability, but due to the fact that there is some of that vague writing that different DMs may, you may play this in one campaign and it may be super broken because, maybe your DM is like, absolutely, like, they are fully willing to fight for you now and willing to die for you now. At which point, like I get, like Kilgrave vibes from Jessica Jones, where, like, you just whisper something to someone and now, they'll go off and do whatever the hell you ask them to. Or you may find yourself in a table where you try to use this ability and the DM goes, okay, yeah, they are under the charm person condition for 8 hours, but that's it. Like, it's a better charm person. It is a longer lasting charm person, which, I don't know. The fact that there is that gray area cannot be S tier, but it is definitely A tier. little bit less going on, so I could shorten it a little bit, make the words a little bigger, and I do apologize for that. I like putting everything up there on the screen. So if you're watching, you can just follow along. That way you're not having to switch between, Google tabs and shit. But if you want to read them better, go find another tab and do it that way. But anyway, my next A tier here is the Eloquence Bard. Starting at 3rd level, you are a master at saying the right thing at the right time. When you make a charisma check of any kind, such as persuasion or deception, I guess not of any kind, because, it doesn't say performance. But if you make a persuasion or deception check, you treat a D20 roll of a 9 as a 10. That means at 3rd level, when you unlock expertise, your end, and let's just go ahead and say here that you put both of them, one in deception, one in persuasion, the absolute lowest that you could ever roll on a persuasion or a deception check, if you're going point by, so you have like a 16, maybe 17, in your charisma, so you have a 3 maybe plus 4 in your charisma. But with expertise at level 3, that means that you will have a 19 persuasion and deception check. That is the lowest you can ever roll. 10 from the die, proficiency bonus times 2, 6, plus 3 or 4. I don't even know how I as a DM, how I could deal with a character like this. Don't get me wrong, I wouldn't ban this class by any means, and I'm sure I could figure something out. The problem is that if you're dealing with someone who has played D&D long enough, who knows that conversation and social encounters, that they can talk their way in and out of anything, knowing that this person, if they try to persuade or deceive, the lowest they can ever roll is a 19, and it just gets worse as they level up, and in some cases it gets exponentially worse once they reach, whenever they reach a level where the proficiency bonus increases. Eventually these characters are going to have, and not to mention, if they take certain feats or things that give them, say, advantage, or, that allows them to get a bonus to their charisma check, it's just, this would be, you would have to change, you would have to tell the player, and that's probably what I would end up doing. I would have to tell the player, hey, I understand why you're making the character the way that you are. However, to ensure that you can't just convince everybody of everything ever, I'm going to be really picky with the words you choose. So the lie you tell is going to matter. I'm just, and I'm not trying to belittle this class. It's just, that's how powerful this ability is. And the fact that they get it at fucking level 3 is just nuts. This ability alone gets them to B tier, A tier. And the rest get better. Alright, so unsettling words. At 3rd level, you can spin words laced with magic that unsettle a creature and cause it to doubt itself. As a bonus action, you can expand one use of your Bardic Inspiration and choose one creature you can see within 60 feet of you. Roll the Bardic Inspiration die. The creature must subtract the number rolled from the next saving throw it makes before the start of your next turn. This is good. It's not the best. And that's probably for the best, to be honest. It's good. I'm glad that it is the way that it is. It gives us a use of that Bardic Inspiration, which again is why we play bards. So I'm glad that they're choosing it. I'm glad that it is a combat-oriented effect, or it could be something that is not combat-oriented. Let's say that you really need to cast Suggestion or Charm Person or some other kind of enchanting ability on somebody. You can tell your party, hey, I'm gonna use this first, and then I'm gonna be the one who does the next attack. Let me be the one who casts the first spell. That way, this hits them. However, if you are actually in combat and you are actually in combat initiative, the fact that this is a bonus action means that it is unlikely, unless you do this first and then immediately hit them with a spell, there is a chance that you may do this ability and then it benefits another player. But that's good. All right, that's not bad. So basically, you either you use your bonus action first to use this ability, and then you use your action to cast a spell, or you do your action, do this as a bonus action, and then maybe the wizard who's coming up after you can can cast polymorph or finger of death or something useful. So really, really good ability. The fact that it scales again with the bardic inspiration die means there's a possibility that you end up at the point where once those bardic inspiration dies get to d8s, d10s, d12s, the average becomes 4 to 7. I mean, fuck, even even the highest of DC makers, liches and things, if if it is reliable that you could subtract their their DCs from you by 4 or 5 every time you try to do something, like, that's nuts. That's this is such a cool and good ability. Almost broken. All right, but we're not done yet. All right, unfailing inspiration, 6th level. Your inspiring words are so persuasive that others feel driven to succeed. When a creature adds one of your bardic inspiration dice to its ability, check, attack roll, or saving throw, and the roll fails, the creature can keep the bardic inspiration die. This fixes, in my opinion, the one, I shouldn't say fix, this patches up the only thing that I think people could bitch about when it came to the inspiration system. Now, I don't I don't think that that's something to bitch about. I just know that, having been the recipient of it, having played games where we've had bards and the bard gave me a inspiration die, and especially early on when it's like when the bardic inspiration die begins at a d6 and even sometimes d8s, you roll it, nothing kicks you in the gut more than when you roll it and it's a 1. So and odds are, if you failed at a 9, you're probably still failing at a 10, right? That nothing hits you in the gut harder. So knowing that at 6th level, that, hey, not only it benefits me, it helps out my bardic inspiration to the point where, hey, if I use it, like, now there's no reason for you not to use it. Now it's like, hey, if a creature uses it, whereas before it's like, oh, I'm only going to use it if I'm close. If I know by this point that the monster's AC is 16, and I miss, by, let's say, 5, it's like, I'm not going to risk my bardic inspiration, my D8 bardic inspiration, because I'd have to roll a 5 or higher, which means, that's like a 42% chance of rolling that. What I need for 42, 50% chance. But now, even if I don't roll high enough, I still get to keep my bardic inspiration. So now, basically, anytime you fail, you roll this bardic inspiration, because worst comes worst, you just keep it. Nothing happens. All right. Also at 6th level, you gain universal speech. You've gained the ability to make your speech intelligible to any creature. As an action, choose one or more creatures within 60 feet of you, up to a number equal to your charisma modifier. The chosen creatures can magically understand you, regardless of the language you speak, for 1 hour. You cannot do so. You cannot use this again until you finish a long rest, or unless you expand a spell slot to use it again. This is something they introduced in Tasha's, this idea that spellcasters get abilities that are one-time uses unless they expand a spell slot to use. I'm kind of mixed feelings about it. The reason why I'm mixed feelings about it is because this is the definition of power creep. You go read the player's handbook, you will not find a single one of these abilities. You will not find a single ability that says, hey, this is a once in a long rest thing because it's a pretty powerful ability. Or you can just use one of your, by fucking 6th level, what are you really using your 1st level spell slots for? Besides just the occasional charm person or shield or disguise self. Like, odds are you've moved up the world. You're using 2nd level and 3rd level more than your 1st level. At least, those are your important spell slots. So the fact that this is literally just, oh yeah, I'm going to use a 1st level spell slot, now I get to use it again, it's effective. And it's a tongues. All right, it's a free, granted, you cannot have a conversation with them. It says the chosen creature can understand you. So it's not, so like if a bear comes charging at me, I can try to tell it that, we mean no harm and that it should leave us alone. But it's not like I can sit here and have a conversation with it. But, speak with animals, I think that spell, I don't think speak with animals, I don't think allows it to, or I think it does. I think it allows you and them to communicate. So it's kind of one of those abilities where it's a little bit less because it's basically a one-way conversation, but still really great ability. The fact that I can use it once for free and then just spell slot to get it back, it has its uses. It's not the most powerful broken ability. All right, it's not it's not my things up here, but the fact that I get it at 6th level, other classes, this unfailing inspiration, most classes that's all they would get, right? Like that's all they would get at 6th level. The fact that they get 2 abilities alone, like, so what if the second one's maybe a little lackluster? All right, here we are, 14th level, the capstone for my Eloquence Bard. At 14th level, when you successfully inspire someone, the power of your eloquence can now spread to someone else. When a creature within 60 feet of you adds one of your bardic inspiration dice to its ability check, attack roll, or saving throw, and the roll succeeds, you can use your reaction to encourage a different creature other than yourself that can hear you within 60 feet, giving it the bardic inspiration die without expanding any of your bardic inspiration uses. You can use this a number of times equal to charisma modifier, and you regain all expended uses when you finish a long rest. So basically, you get 2 for the price of 1. Unless, no, I'm pretty sure, like, I don't think even where you are in the turn order, I don't think it would matter. Basically, you give it to one person, and remember, at this point, all right, when a creature adds one of its bardic inspiration dies and it doesn't work, then they get to keep that inspiration die. So basically, you give it to someone, they roll it as many times as they need until eventually it works. And when it does work, you can immediately use your reaction, which granted it does use your reaction. So that means that if you are the counter speller of your party, then this might be something you keep in mind. It means that you're not going to be able to counterspell this turn. But you then use your reaction to cause another character other than yourself within, I'm assuming within 60 feet of you, and giving them that bardic inspiration. So basically, you're just getting 2 for the price of 1. They allow you to do it a decent amount of times. It allows you to do your charisma modifier by 14th level. Odds are your charisma is probably a 18 or 20. I think it's safe to assume you probably have a 20 charisma at level 14 or pretty damn close. So 4 to 5 times, a day to double your inspirations. And the fact that, again, by this point, your inspirations are coming back on short rest, like, it's just good. It's just good. Like, this is just this is a monster of a support class. It does so much so well. The only problem that you can possibly say about it is that it is not, there's not much in terms of combat going for it. The only thing is that unsettling words at 3rd level, which, don't get me wrong, this is a powerful combative ability, just compared to others, maybe not so much. But again, this is such a broken ability. This is so insane. I think I may try to create I think maybe one of my next videos I'm going to make, I think, is going to be a class that is completely dedicated to just causing your opponent to always fail their saving throw. I'm just the most annoying character I can possibly make, where it's like, yeah, DM, it doesn't matter what you fucking roll. It doesn't, you don't even, I'm not even gonna let you roll for your DCs. Like, I'm gonna make a class that is that just messes with your dice so much that there's, that you almost always succeed and your opponents always fail. I think that would be a cool idea. And this is definitely going to be a part of it for no other reason than this ability. Just absolutely super, super cool, super insane. And it is why this is an A tier. And to be honest, I think that this is probably going to be the next character I make. Eloquence Bard is just, the more I read it, the more I'm just like, damn, this would be really cool. This would be really awesome. But yeah, definitely A tier, almost S tier. And it's going to suck because S tier has such a smaller text amount that it's going to look a little lackluster, but there's a reason for that. So anyway, Eloquence Bard, A tier, top of A tier if I was doing such a thing. But definitely a really, really cool class. All right. Also A tier, Creation Bard. I know, a lot of A tiers, right? Again, we're talking about the most broken, overpowered class in Dungeons and Dragons. It makes sense that most of them are in high tiers. Now, I am going to say that this is not all the text. All right. It's small. All right. If you're watching this and you're like, holy shit, I hate watching this dude's fucking videos because the text is so small. I'm sorry. All right. But I'm trying to keep everything on one damn slide at a time. All right. And I wanted to fit everything. And the sad part is this isn't everything. All right. There's shit I purposely had to leave out because otherwise it would have taken even more. But here we are. All right. So the Creation Bard. A note of potential. When you join the College of Creation at 3rd level, whenever you give a creature bardic inspiration, you can utter a note of Song of Creation to create a tiny mote of potential, which orbits within 5 feet of that creature. That mote is intangible and invulnerable, so it cannot be destroyed, dispelled, etc., and it lasts until the bardic inspiration die is lost. The mote looks like a musical note, a star, a flower, or some other symbol that you choose. When the creature uses the bardic inspiration of the note, they get to something happens based on. Sorry, they don't get to choose. Something happens based on which benefit it is being used for. So, for instance, if they use that bardic inspiration on an ability check, then the creature can roll the bardic inspiration die twice, and they get to choose whichever one is higher. It's advantage. It's advantage on a bardic inspiration die, which is cool. All right, I like that. If it is an attack roll, then the target and each creature of their choice, of the player's choice who is using this on their attack roll, must succeed on a Constitution saving throw against your, I'm assuming that means the Bard's, spell save DC, or take thunder damage equal to the number rolled on the Bardic Inspiration die. A little lackluster. I to be honest, I almost wish that this would have been like, plus something. Bardic Inspiration plus something. Just because, especially, when you get to the point where it's like, oh, we're in tier 2, tier 3, the Bardic's, inspiration is a D8, maybe a D10, so the average is a 5, or a 6 on that Bardic inspiration. It's like, really, like 6 points of thunder damage, I don't know, but then again, like it's an added effect. Like the player is still benefiting from the inspiration, so I guess I don't know. I guess I just would probably not be using it for the attack roll all too much, but maybe it's something effective. All right, or on a saving throw. All right, immediately after the creature rolls it with the saving throw, then it causes the creature to gain temporary hit points equal to the number rolled on the Bardic Inspiration plus your Charisma. There we go. That's what I want to see. I want to see plus something. All right, that way, at the very least, you always get some benefit. And this is really, really nice. I like this. The scales pretty well, especially considering that there are some classes where it's like their whole thing is, and we will get to say the, psionic fighter and stuff like that, where it's like, oh, here, I'm going to protect you with my thing and use my reaction and use one of the few, pools of my resources that I have to help you and, yada, yada, yada. And they'll be doing it with about the same amount of consistency or helping with about the same amount of consistency as this. But this one, remember, they get these back on short rest. Bardic Inspiration's back on short rest. So the fact that it's temporary hit points, the fact that it's, hey, even if you fail with this, now maybe you fail, maybe now you won't go down because of it. So overall, pretty cool. All right. Also at 3rd level, you can channel the magic of Song of Creation to create one non-magical item of your choice in an unoccupied space within 10 feet of you. The item must appear on a surface or in a liquid that can support it. The GP value of the item can't be more than 20 times your Bard level. So I hope you're playing on a computer or have a computer handy, so you can just have a list of all the basic items that 5th edition has, and and their gold amounts. The item glimmers softly, and a creature can faintly hear music when touching it. The created item disappears after a number of hours equal to your proficiency bonus. For examples of items you can create, see the equipment chapter of the player's handbook. Once you create an item with this feature, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest. Or if you expand a spell slot of 2nd level or higher to use this feature again. So they're being a little specific there with the spell slot. You can only have one item created by this feature at a time. If you use this action and have already created an item from this feature, the first one immediately vanishes. There's so much wording here. And when you first read it, you might think, oh, like, that's nice, but like, oh, great, you can create a little extra rope. or oh, okay, you can create, maybe some jars or a basket or something like that. Um, but this comes down to your creativity. Maybe for all maybe just being able to build a fucking ladder. Like maybe a ladder is all you need. Maybe a door, is all you need. You're going through a cave and maybe you're high enough level where it's, hey, I'm able to create a door of something, and with a lock. I guess that comes down to how what the DM decides to be as intricate as possible. Again, it must be medium or smaller. So it can't be some huge 10 foot by 10 foot door, but it comes down to just, how creative can you be? I think that's pretty cool. I like it. I like when abilities like this come up to the, to the creativity of the person using it. However, at certain levels, you can go and make those really big things. At 6th level, you can make large items, which you'll get to 6th level probably pretty quick. 14th level, that might be reaching it. Again, most campaigns I find usually end, whether because of conflicting schedules or because of just the campaign wrapping up, in tier 3. So usually by 14th level, the campaign is, you're either barely playing, getting near the end, and the fact that, oh, I get to make huge items now. I don't know. I can see why someone would maybe look at that and be like, yeah, that's not great. But I like that it's creative. All right. At 6th level, as an action, you can target a larger, smaller, non-magical item you can see within 30 feet of you and animate it. The animated item uses the dancing item stat block, which you can find in Tasha's. It was the big chunk of shit that I was not going to put here because it would have made this text even smaller. And it uses your proficiency bonus for certain things. The item is friendly to you and your companions and obeys your commands. It lives for 1 hour until it is reduced to 0 hit points or until you die. In combat, it shares your initiative, but it takes its turn immediately after yours. It can move and use its reaction on its own, but the only action it takes, basically much like any of the other, I feel like Tasha's introduced a lot of summoning shit, a lot of summon Fae, summon Construct, summon Aberration. This is just another one of those summoning things. If you are incapacitated, it can the only action it can take, the item can take any action of its choice, not just dodge. When you use a Bardic Inspiration feature, you can command the item as part of the same bonus action you use for the Bardic Inspiration. Once you animate an object with this feature, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest, unless you expend a spell slot of 3rd level or higher to use this feature again. You can only have one animated item with this feature at a time. If you use this action, already have a dancing item from this feature, the first one immediately becomes inanimate. If the stat block is nothing to write home about. And again, if you want to go read it, go search it online, go check out Tasha's. It's a lot. It's a big stat block and things. The thing that is nice, though, is that this is, again, privy to your creativity. So, again, it says a large or smaller non-magical item you can see within 30 feet of you to animate it. This means you can animate a fucking dresser, or a bed. This means that, if you're playing a game where maybe subterfuge is something important, or maybe you're trying to break into a place or you're trying to get information about something, the fact that you can animate an object, tell it to remain still until something happens and then cause a distraction, or do something unique like this is something privy to people who are creative. And I love it. I think it's really, really cool. Is it the most broken ability? No. Is it like a super big combat-oriented thing, like say, like the spell animate objects can be? No, because of the fact you can only create one. But it's still really fucking cool. And you're only going to be able to create one for a while because, oh look, at 14th level, when you use this ability, you can create number of items equal to your charisma modifier. If you didn't think turn economy, action economy was already in your favor, in the player's favor, here you go. All right, it takes you a while. It takes you to get to level 14, but here you are. All right, time to really fuck up your DM's plans by just basically having a shit ton of items going out there and doing things. If you really want to piss them off, tell you what, also take the animate object spell. All right, or summoning animal companions. All right, let's just really bog down the combat turn, shall we? If you create an item that would exceed that number, however, you choose which of the previously created items disappear. Only one of these items can be the maximum size you create. The rest must be small or tiny. And you are no longer limited by GP value when creating items with performance of creation. So in other words, at 14th level, you can literally make whatever the fuck you want. Whatever your party needs, you can create. This is so cool. This is, this whole class is very, very, it's creative. It aims for players who are able to kind of think outside the box, especially when it comes to making the items and ways to use that. The only problem is, and you already know where this is going to go, is that although a lot of this stuff is stuff for, subterfuge, is stuff for problem solving, and stuff for like utility, what better way to describe utility than the person who can literally be like, oh, do you guys need to go up, go up this side of the building? Here, let me make you rope. Here, let me make you a ladder. Oh, hey, we need to go down someplace. Here, let me make something that helps us get out of this situation. Like, that is the meaning of utility. We're facing a problem. Let me make something to fix to fix the problem. This is the definition of utility. However, there is absolutely nothing besides this, animating an object thing that actually helps you in combat. Now, the stat block, especially the stat block for when you're making either a lot of little things or the one big thing, that could actually be something cool. Go check out that stat block. You can actually make something that might actually be pretty useful in combat. The problem is that I think what you're going to find is that until you reach 14, whatever you make isn't going to be too nuts. You're not going to be dealing with, it's not like you're making, basically, there's other things that you can make and spells that are going to be dwarfing this in power. But what's nice is that this isn't a spell. You don't have to concentrate on this. You can make this thing, and now you've basically have like a little companion that can just go and do things, and you don't have to worry about it. And the fact that 14th level, you can make up to your charisma modifier, which is 5. I can just imagine this character being able to make 5, creatures. Obviously, you can only make one of its maximum size. The rest must be small or tiny. But 5 things, also then using their concentration to create, say, summon lesser demon or conjure animals or, animate objects or something. And fuck it, if this person really wants to go crazy, go multi-class in Artificer. Get 3rd level Artificer and then go that Artificer class, whatever that makes the Tinkerer's thing. It's just, swarm the battlefield with your toys. I think it'd be cool. Very creative, very cool. I like what they did, but it is, again, A tier. Because although once you get 14th level, it's like, okay, yeah, that could be really good in combat. You're waiting a long time to get there. So, very good, very creative, but A tier. All right. And we've done it. We have gotten here to the S tier. The best of the best. It may seem kind of lackluster. It may seem kind of like no fucking way, right? How can you say that the Eloquence Bard, or the College of Whispers, how can you say that those classes are A tier while this is S tier? There's no way this is the best Bard. Hear me out. Okay. First off, at 3rd level, when you go into this college, you gain proficiency with 3 skills of your choice. This is the same class that when you first pick it, you get to be proficient in, I believe it's 4 skills of your choice. Which means by 3rd level, you could be proficient if your DM allows for background and allows for the background skills, proficiencies to be added onto your player. By 3rd level, you could have 9 proficiencies. You could have 2 expertise, more so once you get to level whatever it is, level 5, level 6, whatever the fuck level that is, where you can be proficient in 4 things instead of 2. And you're jack of all trades, so even the things that aren't part of your 9 choices out of your 9 proficiencies already, you're not going to suck at. This is the definition of, hey, no matter what you want to do, you will probably succeed in it. Third level, you learn how to use your wit to distract, confuse, and otherwise sap the confidence and competence of others. When a creature that you can see within 60 feet of you makes an attack roll, an ability check, or a damage roll, notice you do not see the word saving throw in here. You can use your reaction to expand one of your uses of Bardic Inspiration, rolling it and subtracting that number from that creature's roll. And you can choose when you want to use it. So you can wait until after the DM rolls and then say, oop, I'm pretty sure that that's like close. I'm pretty sure my paladin buddy's AC is 19 and you just rolled a 20. I'm going to use this and basic, pretty close. Have a, have an 85% chance of making that attack miss. The creature is immune to this effect, however, if it cannot hear you or if it is immune to being charmed. Or if it is outside of 60 feet. But odds are, all right, some people tend to kind of forget this last line on it. So maybe your DM will too. All right. Not a bad ability. I almost wish it had saving throws in there, but apparently they gave it to the Eloquence bar instead, so I guess I can't complain. But I don't know. It's weird that they had like ability check, damage roll, attack roll. The fact they left out saving throw, I don't know. Maybe they thought that was too powerful, and then Tasha's came out and they just gave it to them instead. I don't know. At 6th level, additional magical secrets. You learn 2 spells of your choice from any class. A spell you choose must be the level you cast, as shown on the bard table, or a cantrip. The chosen spell count as bard spells for you, but don't count against the number of bard spells you know. Now, I know that might sound, especially compared to some of the other classes, where at 6th level they got like 2 abilities. They were these big block texts, that covered half of my page. You may look at this and go, well, this is kind of lackluster. How the fuck is this an S tier if so far these are pretty cut and dry one-turn abilities? Okay, here's why. The bard already gets the ability to swipe some spells, but most of that swiping is done later. All right, most of that swiping is done at like 10th level, all right, and then after. The fact that this allows you at 6th level to steal 2 spells of your choice means that early on, this class has the ability to be whatever it is you and your party need it to be. Do you need a healer? Okay, take mass cure. I guess at 6th level you wouldn't have mass cure wounds yet, but you would definitely have, say, mass, healing word and revivify. Cure wounds and revivify. Raise dead wouldn't be until later, if I recall correctly. The point is that you can choose that, and then within a few levels, when you get magical secrets, you get 2 more. Bottom line, by like 14th level, you can have this class allows you to steal something like 8 spells from other classes, like 6 to 8 spells from other classes, which means that you can literally cherry pick and take the absolute best cleric spell, the best druid spell, the best wizard spell, best warlock spell. Do you want the best cantrip in the game? Hey, here you go. You can take fucking Eldritch Blast. I think it might be kind of, you might be kind of wasting it, with Eldritch Blast, but, I will say that most bards generally don't have too good a cantrip, so, hey, here you go. This fixes that problem for you. It may not seem like much, but it's a lot when you put it in the context of just how soon you get them and the fact that this adds on to the spells you will be stealing later. All right, lastly, Perilous Skill. At 14th level, when you make an ability check, you can expand one use of your Bardic Inspiration, roll a Bardic Inspiration die, and add that number roll to your ability check. You can choose to do so after you roll the die for the ability check before the DM tells you whether you succeed or fail. This one, this is the one that almost makes this drop out of S tier. This is the one that almost makes me think that the Lore Bard should not be S tier. Because it's basically just saying, hey, whenever you need to make an ability check, you can just use a Bardic Inspiration, but it says you can expend 1. So this isn't something that you just get. This isn't like, oh, like every time I need to make an ability check, I can just roll a Bardic Inspiration die and it just never goes away. You expend 1 use of Bardic Inspiration, roll a Bardic Inspiration die, and add that number roll to your ability check. Kind of lackluster. And especially knowing that this is your capstone, The only reason I am sticking that the lore bard is still the S tier bard in my opinion is because of the fact that although it may seem kind of lackluster, again, it's 14th level. And if I'm going to judge other classes by the fact that, you know, the 14th level is a level that most players are just generally not going to be playing at, you know, I'm going to hold this one true as well. So just overall, it's, you know, there's so many things here that help it out, that make it decent, that make it good. And the fact that, again, you know, I'm looking through this through the lens of, you know, at the end of the day, even though D&D is a group game, even though D&D is a game that I'm playing, you know, as part of a group, I care mostly that whether or not I'm failing or succeeding. All right, like, you know, my power gamingness is looking to me, you know, like for how much I enjoy seeing my friends succeed. I care more if I'm succeeding, right? So the fact that you gain these bonus proficiencies, the fact that you gain these additional magical secrets, the fact that you do have cutting words, which again, you know, being able to stop an attack roll, stop an ability check, or just lowering a damage roll for some reason, you know, it's clean, it's concise, it does what it needs to do. And to be honest, I feel like if you play a lore bard, you can drop a lore bard in any campaign, in any role, and you will have fun. And that is something I cannot say about the Eloquence bard. That is something I cannot say about the Creation bard. That is something I cannot say about the Whispers bard. All right, you know, those bards, for how awesome they are, for how fantastic they are, you will find certain campaigns where, you know, if there's just not a lot of social encounters, if your DM just doesn't really allow you to talk to too many people, you know, like there's not too many, you know, people to talk to, you know, Out of the Abyss, for instance, you know, or Princes of the Apocalypse, then, you know, your Eloquence bard is going to be lacking because your DM's just gonna be like, yeah, like people can't understand you, or, you know, they don't care what you have to say. You know, like you're so, you know, like there's just, you know, or there's just blatantly no one to talk to. The lore bard you can drop into literally any campaign of any kind and be good at, you know, and be the best at whatever it is you are trying to do. This is the overall ending reason why the lore bard for me is S tier. It is why it is the best bard subclass, because at the very end, all the other A tiers, for how amazing they are, and I'll be honest, a lot of their abilities are better than the ones the lore bard gets. However, there is just enough tinge of situational to them that make it that to have a bard class like this one, where all of these abilities would always be useful no matter what the campaign setting situation is, this is why the lore bard is S tier. But hey, this is my opinion. This is my list. It's meant to be heavily opinionated and maybe cause, you know, some different thinking. So I am open for any and all interpretations. This one was just mine. But I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope that, you know, maybe you see these bards in maybe a different way. Maybe I convinced you that the bard is indeed the best class in 5th edition of all cases, and it's why most of their subclasses are in the higher tier rankings. But whatever the case, hope you enjoyed the video, and I will catch you next time.